best weather coverage by the Georgia Association of Broadcasters. From the station that's on your side, this is News 12, first at 5.
South Carolina Republicans have been unable to agree on abortion restrictions. Should the decision go to voters instead? Just ahead, a live report on why that probably won't happen.
But first, big news for Augusta Technical College. More than $2.7 million in newly announced funding is coming its way.
News 12's Alyssa Lyons joins us now live outside of the technical school. Alyssa, what will this funding go towards?
Well, listen, first I want you to play a little bit of a dream. Let's go back a few years. You put on your backpack, you walk into school, and this is the classroom that you walk into at Augusta Tech. Needs a little bit of love, if you ask me. And now that the other pieces of the puzzle can fall in line in 2025, they plan to get $36 million in construction funding. The year after, $7 million for furniture and equipment to replace all of this stuff. It's all to fill 81,000 square feet of engineering technology programs. Everything from architectural to computer and mechanical. The building will also be used for research and development projects. The facility will cross county lines and sit 30 minutes away in Columbia County. Tech says advanced manufacturing is a growing industry. It's in demand. Augusta Tech says the region employs more than 24,000 manufacturing jobs.
We haven't been able to do is invest in what I call bleeding edge technology, some of the future technology, because we simply didn't have space. And so now having a bigger space to do this and then also partnering with some of those OEMs and manufacturing equipment providers, we'll be able to get some technology that no one else has right now in the state.
Now, it's still a long time in the making. They're working on securing 60 acres. I know, Mayor, you and I look to see where that could possibly be. That location won't be announced until a later date. But coming up all new on News 12 at 6 o'clock, we'll take a look at some of those new advanced programs that they're adding to Augusta Tech.
Thanks for that, Alyssa. Augusta Tech certainly expanding over the last few years with some major partnerships in the community.
Yeah.
We've seen so many with Augusta National all the way to the micro enterprise building in downtown Augusta. So a lot happening here. Exciting stuff.
A lot happening here and a lot happening outside, depending on where you are right now. Some of you may just be feeling the heat. Others, you might be hearing the rumble of thunder.
It's just hot outside today. It feels like summer, Riley.
Yeah.
It really does, guys. We've had possible by tomorrow in just about 10 minutes.
All right, thanks for that, Riley. Officers in Grovetown asking for your help finding a man accused of cruelty to children and domestic violence. They say 38-year-old Jonathan Mathis beat an ex-girlfriend this past Saturday while her children were there. He is believed to be driving a 1999 black Dodge Durango with Georgia license plate SBY 9158. If you have seen him, if you know where he is, call 911 or Grovetown Police.
A Burt County man facing even more charges after he escaped a hospital following a 4-hour standoff in North Carolina. This all happened last Wednesday when 30-year-old Jerry Flakes Jr. was arrested following that standoff at a Walmart in Wallace. He was taken to the area hospital where he later escaped. A days-long search ensued and Flakes was caught Friday afternoon. Now Flakes is in Duplin County near North Carolina in jail under a $2 million bond.
South Carolina is home to a nearly $30 billion tourism industry, and state leaders expect 2023 could be another record year for travel in the Palmetto State. Today, Governor Henry McMaster declared this week to be Travel and Tourism Week in South Carolina in a celebration at the governor's mansion. The State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism says the industry supports 1 in 10 jobs in South Carolina, and nearly $2 billion came into local economies last year through state and local taxes. DPRT Director Dwayne Parrish says what sets South Carolina apart is the variety and accessibility.
Small triangle, but we've got beaches to the mountains, all in the, mountains to the coast, all in one state. In the summertime, you can literally play golf in the mountains at 3,500 feet in elevation in the morning, and that afternoon play on the ocean course, Kiowa, in the same day.
Harris says the coast continues to be South Carolina's most popular spot, but he says places like Columbia and Greenville and even some of the lesser known parts of the state, they are welcoming more tourists now too.
It's been more than 9 months since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and South Carolina Republicans have failed to agree on tighter abortion restrictions.
And not for lack of trying. That's got some South Carolinians and even some lawmakers asking, why doesn't the legislature just let voters decide? Our State House reporter Mary Green joins us now live in Columbia. And Mary, this could be a question South Carolinians see on their ballots, perhaps.
Well, Meredith will. It won't be one they'll see on their ballots anytime soon. But some lawmakers here at the State House do believe that putting this on the ballot would be the most direct way to find out the true will of the people on this controversial issue.
We have reached a place in America with abortion that every person, I mean, almost every person who's an adult in South Carolina has given some thought to abortion, and I would hazard a guess that the vast majority have opinions about abortion.
A January poll from the South Carolina Policy Council of likely voters of both parties asked if they would support or oppose a state constitutional amendment to restrict or ban most abortions. Nearly half the respondents said they would oppose it, while about a third said they'd be in support. Republican Senator Greg Hembry proposed putting the question to voters in a referendum during the Senate's most recent abortion debate last month. But that push failed, and so too have previous attempts at the State House recently to let voters decide directly.
That's a cop-out. The idea that we should start having constitutional amendments for every issue. And look, we were elected, all of us were questioned, whether you be Republican or Democrat or whatever, everybody was questioned. What is your position on this issue? And you had to take a position.
I also asked Governor Henry McMaster today if he believes this is an issue that South Carolina's voters should decide. He echoed Senator Massey's comments that he says South Carolinians have already made that decision through their elected representatives. The governor says he also believes this is an issue that South Carolina can't wait to settle until an election. Reporting live from the South Carolina State House, Mary Green, on your side.
Something you'll keep an eye on for us. Thank you, Mary. Nationwide frustration at yet another mass shooting. We'll have the latest information on this most recent attack when Live at 5 continues. Riley?
And we have another hot day on tap tomorrow, and we are tracking another opportunity for more thunderstorms Tuesday afternoon. Full look at the forecast just after a quick break.
Time and temp.
Day through Thursday. Getting some nights back down to the 50s as we wake up early Thursday and Friday. And then for the weekend outlook, looks like the heat does return with highs in the 90s both Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, thank you, Riley. In Allen, Texas, just north of Dallas, the search for answers is underway after the nation's latest deadly mass shooting.
Saturday afternoon, a gunman wearing tactical gear opened fire at an outlet mall and killed 8 people before a police officer killed him. NBC's Chris Pallone has the story.
In Texas, a memorial continues to grow at the Allen Premium Outlets, the scene of the nation's latest deadly mass shooting. And now, 2 days later, as the initial shock wears off, families are opening up about those who were killed. Among them, 27-year-old Aishwarya Thadakonda, a native of India who lived in the area and worked as an engineer, and 20-year-old Christian Lacour, a security guard at the outlet mall. His grandmother called him a beautiful soul.
Father God.
Sunday night, the community paused to remember the victims, but they're left with so many unanswered questions, including the biggest, why?
I heard pow, 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 shooting, and everybody ran.
Police say the gunman was 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia. He was armed with a rifle and pistol and had more guns and ammunition in his car. Law enforcement officials tell NBC the massacre is being investigated as a case of racial or ethnically motivated violent extremism. They're combing through social media posts Garcia interacted with, espousing neo-Nazi and white supremacist rhetoric. Investigators were seen searching his Dallas home over the weekend. One of the many heroes from Saturday, former police officer Steven Spainhour, who rushed to the mall after a frantic call from his son who was working there. Spainhour saw the carnage the gunman left behind and helped some of the victims. He says something needs to change.
This is not a Democrat thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's an American problem.
There have been 202 mass shootings in the U.S. this year. Saturday's was the second deadliest.
And And 7 more people were wounded in this attack. 6 remain in the hospital, 3 in critical condition. The oldest survivor, 61 years old. The youngest, just 5 years old.
Another tragedy out of Texas, this time in Brownsville. An SUV plowing into a group of people outside a migrant shelter, killing 8 people and injuring several others. This happened yesterday morning. Authorities are looking into whether the driver rammed into the crowd intentionally. The driver is now charged with 8 counts of manslaughter. Medical kits are mandatory on commercial airplanes, but what's inside those kits? It's not always the same. Coming up next, we look at in-flight first aid.
First Alert Radar, powered by Jim Hudson.
Uneven sidewalks, pull down.
Can fix it.
Doctors across the country are sounding the alarm. The emergency medical kits on commercial flights sometimes fall short and could be outdated.
Our national investigative team found out the rules mandating what should be in those kits haven't been updated in nearly 2 decades. Consumer investigator Rachel DePompa finds out what you need to know about first aid flight plans.
I'm going to go ahead and declare a medical emergency as well. It's actually the captain that's not doing well.
A Southwest flight from Las Vegas to Columbus, Ohio.
So we need to get him on the ground immediately. So we are an emergency aircraft at this point.
The captain falls ill with stomach pain and faints. An off-duty pilot saves the day and lands the plane back in Vegas. From pilots to flight attendants and passengers, medical emergencies are on the rise as travel increases and the population ages. The Centers for Disease Control estimates about 1 in every 600 flights has a medical emergency. Doctors are warning when the call for help comes down the aisle, they don't always have what they need to help you.
100% of the times that I've asked for those kits, they were either absent or incomplete.
Dr. Leo Nisola is talking about emergency medical kits on flights. All airlines are required by the Federal Aviation Administration to carry these bags filled with 25 mandatory items to save your life. The kits include a stethoscope, aspirin, a blood pressure cuff, and epinephrine to treat allergic reactions, but not an EpiPen in pre-measured doses, which makes the drug easier to inject. Neither the FAA nor Congress has updated what's required inside these kits for nearly 2 decades.
I think those kits are usually outdated, the ones that I've come across, and could definitely use some improvement.
First time I saw this kit, I was astonished that they did not have something as basic as a glucometer, which is a blood sugar monitor.
Dr. Amy Faith Ho works in a Texas ER and has helped with medical emergencies on multiple flights. She says some airlines are going above and beyond to add more items and medications to their kits, just not all of them. In 2020, the FAA issued guidance to airlines encouraging them to include more. It's still not mandatory to add the extra items.
Should there be a uniform policy for all airlines and not airlines electing to do things or not do them?
But I absolutely think that this needs to be centralized and regulated in one place so that you can know what you might have on any given airline.
MedAir is a company that makes medical kits filled with more than the FAA requires. 16 airlines around the world use these kits, but not every U.S. airline. MedAir did not disclose which carriers are involved, but Alaska Airlines and Delta told us they use the kits. Dr. Paulo Alves is the company's global medical director. He led a 2019 task force created by the FAA to review what new items need to be in these kits. It made several recommendations.
The FAA is actually the governmental agency responsible for enforcing the medical kits and controlling the medical kits. But they don't define the content of the medical kit.
In a statement, the FAA told us it's reviewing the emergency medical kit requirements based on the input from this task force. Though changing the official list of requirements for these kits means Congress has to act. Until then, some of the emergency medical kits on flights continue to be outdated and inconsistent.
Our national team reached out to 8 major U.S. airlines. All of them except Spirit responded, and all that responded said their medical kits comply with FAA requirements, and you can read those full statements on investigatetv.com. Riley?
Well, we are still keeping an eye on a few thunderstorms south of Augusta. This one's right between Waynesboro and Louisville, moving towards the south. Another update on the radar and the forecast coming up just after the break.
Calling all nines.